So today we are going to be talking about the political compass. Now, the reason why the political compass is so important is because look at this picture. I'll show it to you. So this picture has two bars and arrows. That's not much, but listen. What this means is left, right. You can see this. They are economic terms, mostly like economic left means socialism, and economic right means capitalism. Basically, that's what it needs to mean. This is socialism, this is capitalism. Okay, understood? This bar means socialism or capitalism, or the distribution in money. In case you don't know what socialism and capitalism is, well, it means socialism means like the government controls the money supply flow or something, like the government controls the money flow, and the economic right is absolutely, like the far right is absolutely just individuals own this, and so that is what it means. As for the top and bottom, the general higher it is, the government controls more things, just in general, not in the economy, just generally is more strict, and then as it goes down, it generally means that the government is less strict and more individuals and more anarchy. That's the perfect way to say the political compass shows you how ideologies work. Say for example, communism is here. They are far left, they are authoritarian, and as you can see, they are very like, what can I say, many slots in this. So you can say put something here, that's the libertarian left, and it makes sense. So that's the political compass, and if you don't understand how any of this works, well, it's just that center and absolute corners are different. So you can have some funny possibilities, like if you have some right and left ideologies combined together, you are absolutely in the center. But also, if you are in the corners, absolute different, like absolute extremist things, then you also are in the center, because you are the extremist center. So that's a quick side note. If you are in the center, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. And also, if you don't know anything about elections, well, I'm going to explain it to you later on, like elections, how they work and everything. And so we are I'll show you the map that I've designed. This is very hard. Okay, this is a very big map. Oh, what? There's a lot of rumbling happening. That's a big map, but don't ingest all this confusion and things already. Let's look at some other things. So as you can see, autocracy and many other things. There's just a few little spelling mistakes because, well, I couldn't fit all of them in. But don't look at these. Let's go in the political compass. Alright, so I've drawn a better political compass, a more complicated one, but it's basically just like putting a whole different circle around this and just a bunch of x's to just a bunch of x, like a x. What am I even saying? Okay, it's like an x, and that'll allow us to tick these points. Okay, now let's talk about left, right, libertarian. Why did I write liberalism? I don't even know what I'm talking about. Autocracy. Okay, or authoritarian. Basically same thing. I don't know if these spellings are correct. But as you can see, communism, capitalism, and then democracy, and then autocracy / dictatorship, or authoritarian, whatever you want to call it. But it's basically the same thing. Okay, so you got it. Now let's get right into it. So these are the main ideologies here. Also, by the way, if we split it, so like this is a whole different quarter, this is another quarter, you have specific ideologies for that too. But let's talk about communism, which is which you can see is more left than more autocracy. So like it's more far left, and it's also in the autocracy section, but it's more like less autocracy, like it has less authoritarian people. I think That is what I meant to say, but that's the raw version of communism. Side note, a lot of these different ideologies are used not in the proper way. In many nations, they are not used in how they are meant to be. Like, for example, Marx and Engels, who created this socialism in Germany, didn't mean it to be used as more of a dictatorial term. Now communism is just like used as something like it's not a good phrase basically now. Before it sounded kind of good because of kings and monarchs and everything, and so that's how it works. I have 3 main ideologies and then something at the end. So let's look at how communism works. If you have never known about communism or any other leaders and elections and things, you know that communism doesn't have any sort of voting. How the voting works in communism, yes, there is communism on voting, like you can vote leaders which are communist, and you can change the leader on a currently communist country by voting. Well, it's not voting, it's not the voting that we think it is. Like there are lower ranked officials in the Communist Party, and as it goes up, kind of like votes, but in the Communist Party, just not in the whole amounts of people. Like imagine 1 billion people voting. India, I'm looking at you. Okay, so now let's go here. Communism, this section, if you can see it correctly, it says that, let's just say, like I'm a random person, I'm Joe, and I have $10, while John has $20. So each of us are giving our money to the communist government, Communist Party. And now, actually I have $5. Wait, I'm Joe and I have $5, and this guy is rich. Okay, this guy is $20. More explanation. And as you can see, John pays all of his money to the communist government as Joe, and he puts it into this area. And now the Communist Party takes $5 off of them, and they gives back and divides it by 2, because there are 2 people in subject, and $10 each. Gives them $10 each. So now Joe actually got more money. That's essentially how a communist state was meant to work, as well as having no voting rights. But as you can probably expect from a 16th century ideology, it's pretty flawed. Okay, so no voting because everyone was a monarchy back then, and people were finding alternatives. And so that's how it's meant to work. But people now took it, people like the Soviets took it a little bit differently and made so many modifications to it that cannot be even called communism anymore, or socialism, or anything you want to call it. The main difference between communism and socialism is, it's disputable, but the main difference is, wait, I forgot. Okay, I'll tell you later. But now basically they took it as Leninism and Marxism, and those are very different terms from communism. They are very different. Make sure to read the fine print of these the books that Marx created. Why did I say? They have been taken very differently. Basically, that's what has happened. Communism isn't bad in itself. Its idea is pretty well done, actually. But these guys modified it, and that's the problem. No blaming to them, but communism was actually a pretty good ideology back then. Okay, so that's it about communism. Now, communism is at the left autocracy section, and so it's here, and that's basically it. Then democracy. Now, democracy, what are you doing if you don't even know what democracy is? Okay, so democracy means to say, for example, Joe, John, and Bob. Why did I spell John? That's triggering me now. Okay, whatever. So these 2 guys, alongside Bob, who is another guy they met on their adventures, each has 1,000 people on like a band or trip to another country. And now there's 1,003 people because there's these 3 are also individuals. Okay. And now there's an election going on between Stalin, Trump, and George W. Bush. Those are the most random names. I think I thought of it when I was making the map. But say, for example, George W. Bush gets 50%, Sterling gets 10% and Trump gets 40%. And then whoever gets the most percentage, he gets the president. But the problem with this, democracy has a few problems. It's not like democracy is a free system with nothing in the power core or anything. Democracy is actually a very flawed system. Corruption and many other things can cause very different things. I used to think that democracy was the only way, but now it isn't. See, there's a lot of problems with democracy. Democracy has a lot of problems. So that's not the topic of this video, but I'm going to cover it on another video. But basically all you need to know is that first past vote is very bad. That's what I'm saying. This voting system is very bad, because look at it. He is getting 50% sure, but imagine it was a little bit lower, which is what it is in usual elections. In usual elections, there's more like 12 parties. And then what happens? You see only 20% which is at the most, and at the least you can sometimes get 2%, is the winner of the election. The majority is being ignored here. Look, even here, it puts in half. Look, George W. Bush gets 50% and they get 50% on here. If you ignore their side, ignore that there are two different candidates, then you'll see that George W. Bush doesn't actually get the majority. It's not a proper fixed system, meaning there's more coups, there's more things, but that's the topic for another time. Okay, so this is not the main system. Now these are some examples of the countries like China and America. So democracy is highly at center, center at the bottom, right? So it's either of these can be democratic countries. Technocrats. You probably don't know how technocracy works, right? So let's come up here. Technocracy is at the autocracy and right section. So it's here. You don't know what it is. Technocracy. Okay, let's come back here. Technocracy means people in general thought during the Great Depression, okay, what do we do? This democratic country isn't making it. So they create technocracies, future technocracies that they could coup and create. And then they created the North American technocracy. This wasn't actually this was not a country, to be fair, but it was an idea that they would revolt and create. But basically the idea of technocracy is that these all people are bad. They democracy, let's just say a peasant from Egypt, like a worker who is a labor, can run for the US election and he wins. What do? We have to put smart people in there, and that's why this is how the system works. Say for example, Joe has nothing. He has no degrees or PhD or anything. Billy has an engineering degree. John has both a science degree and an engineering degree. So he becomes a leader because he has the most PhD / whatever. He has the most knowledge of the two, and then of the three, and then he rules the country. That's how it works. It's a very autocratic system and also a very right system, and that's why I put it here. It's more high, like around the center, but it's still autocracy. And so that's how it works. But a quick note, I want you to do something here. I want you to create an ideology, and first we need to understand how two flag ideologies work, as I like to call them. For example, anarchy is this absolute end. Here is anarchy. You can imagine an imaginary circle or an imaginary square with written anarchy on here. Absolutely at the end, even farther away from the political compass. You can imagine, right? So that's how it works. Anarchy is here. So if you think about anarchy or communism or anything else, it can actually mix with other ideologies. Like communism, technocracy isn't that bad of an idea. Okay, so communist technocracy isn't that bad of an idea. I'll put it immediately. imagine there are two flags. I was not gonna write on this video, but imagine there's this flag. It has two colors possibly here. So the first color is here, and it says that it's actually anarchy, and the second color is communism. So it's anarcho-communism. That's how two color flags works in ideology. Anarcho-communism is actually at this quadrant. It's the main ideology here in this quadrant, and that's why I want you to create your own hypothetical ideology on this. But first, a quick side note: before you immediately start mixing ideologies up, make sure to look a little bit of context on the ideology. Communist capitalism isn't a thing because of good reason. There are two opposite things, and when two opposite things come together, they just become anarchy. Okay, that's the thing that you need to learn. Anarchy is kind of like the center, kind of like the bottom of here. It's weird in the political compass. That's why I didn't write it. So make sure to look at capitalism. What does it mean? What does technocracy mean? Over again, look at the fine things in the internet before creating the thing and submitting it. Or you might just be seen as a little bit weird because socialist communism is the same thing basically, and so you don't need to do that. And another thing, one last bonus thing, you know how the political compass exists here? Well, I created a political compass, or a way of knowing what kind of rebellion or thing there is, and a little mini compass outside of this. It has no relation to the topic, but I just thought it was going to be cool. And so at the center is the protest, like the normal protests, and what you need to know is as it goes up, it becomes, well, more severe and more severe. So let's go absolutely at the bottom. I don't know what I write there. I wrote there, but I think what this means is that there's like minor protest, and that's like a really minor protest. That's what I think. And then as it goes up, it becomes a rebellion, an insurgent, and a radical list. Now this is not a perfect project yet. I am going to make another video on it and make it a more perfect form, but this is not the way it is. This means it's just like the different axes where the different kinds of fighting. So guerrilla fighting, there's then I think like what can I say, like different people who are in water and they're actually saying that they're merchants, but they're actually fighters. And then there's pirates. Absolutely, that makes sense. Okay, so this is not a completed project. This is one last thing that you might want to take in your new ideology, or you don't even make the two ideology, and just make a full-on one ideology, one colored ideology. You can also do that, and you can make an ideology of one of these people. And so that's a cool thing. And so make sure to comment it. I want every single one of you to comment. If I seriously don't see you guys comment on this, then I'm going to try it again, and you have to comment. Okay, that's the only thing you need to know. So like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and so that's it. Bye bye. I'll see you next time.